The sterile scent of antiseptic hung heavy in the air of Dr. Mensah's dimly lit examination room, a place where lives were mended or shattered with a single diagnosis. Amara sat on the edge of the cold metal table, her fingers twisting the hem of her faded blue dress. Her eyes, wide and pleading, locked onto the doctor's as she leaned forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "Doctor, please, you have to lie to my husband. Tell him I can't see. That I'm blind. Permanently." Dr. Mensah's pen froze midair, hovering over his clipboard. He was a man in his late 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a face etched by years of delivering both hope and heartbreak. "Mrs. Okoro, that's impossible. I can't fabricate a diagnosis. It's against everything I stand for." Amara's breath hitched, tears welling but not falling. She glanced toward the door, where muffled footsteps echoed from the hallway, her husband, Kenneth, pacing like a caged animal.
"You don't understand.
If he knows the truth, it could destroy everything. Please, doctor. Just this once." The room fell silent, save for the distant hum of the hospital's fluorescent lights. Dr. Mensah adjusted his glasses, studying her. There was no sign of injury in her eyes. Her pupils reacted normally to light. Whatever this was, it wasn't medical. It was personal. Deadly personal. Dr. Mensah leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking under his weight. "Unethical doesn't even begin to cover it, Mrs. Okoro. Why on earth would you want me to do this? Your tests came back fine. Your vision is perfect. A mild concussion from the accident, nothing more." Amara's hands trembled as she clasped them in her lap. "It's because of the accident, doctor. I remember fragments, tires screeching, glass shattering. But there's more. Something Kenneth isn't telling me." She paused, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. "He can't know I can see. Not yet. I need time to uncover the truth." The doctor's brow furrowed. "Truth? What truth? If there's danger, we should involve the authorities." "No." Amara's eyes flashed with desperation. "It's not that simple. We've been married for 10 years. I love him, or at least I thought I did. But lately, whispers, late nights. And now this accident. Please, doctor, help me. Lie for me." Dr. Mensah sighed, rubbing his temples. He had seen his share of domestic dramas, but this felt different, like stepping into a thriller where the plot twisted in shadows. "Fine," he muttered finally, "but only because I sense you're in real trouble. Just remember, lies have a way of unraveling." Amara nodded, relief washing over her face like a tidal wave. But beneath it, a storm brewed. The door burst open, and Kenneth stormed in, his face a mask of frantic concern. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a neatly trimmed beard that couldn't hide the worry lines creasing his forehead, he rushed to Amara's side. "Doctor, what's the verdict? Will she ever see again? The accident, it was horrible. I keep replaying it in my head." Amara turned her head toward his voice, her eyes unfocused, playing the part already. Dr. Mensah cleared his throat, glancing at her one last time. She gave the subtlest nod, imperceptible to Kenneth. "I'm afraid the news isn't good, Mr. Okoro," the doctor said, his voice steady but laced with feigned regret. "The trauma from the crash has caused permanent damage to her optic nerves."
"She's blind."
"Irreversibly." Kenneth's knees buckled. He gripped the table for support. "No. God, no. Amara, baby, I'm so sorry." He enveloped her in a hug, his arms tight, almost too tight. Amara flinched inwardly, but let a single tear escape, her hand patting his back mechanically. "It's okay, Kenneth," she whispered, her voice cracking for effect. "We'll get through this. Together." But as he pulled away, wiping his eyes, Amara caught a flicker in his expression, not just grief, but relief. It vanished quickly, replaced by solicitous concern. "Doctor, what do we do now? How can I help her?" Dr. Mensah handed him a pamphlet on blindness resources. "Support groups, home modifications. It'll be an adjustment." As Kenneth nodded vigorously, the doctor wondered if he had just opened Pandora's box. Back in their cozy two-story home on the outskirts of Lagos, Amara navigated the familiar space with exaggerated caution. She bumped into the coffee table accidentally, letting out a soft yelp. Kenneth was there in an instant, guiding her to the sofa with gentle hands. "Easy, love. I've got you." His kindness was overwhelming, almost performative. He cooked her favorite jollof rice, read her emails aloud, even hummed old love songs while helping her dress. "You're handling this so well," he said one evening, spoon-feeding her like a child. "I'm proud of you." Amara smiled faintly, her eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses.
Thank you, Kenneth.
"It's hard, but you're making it easier." Internally, she cataloged every detail, the way he avoided certain drawers, how his phone buzzed incessantly, but he silenced it quickly. One afternoon, while he was out running errands, she slipped into his study. Pretending blindness had its perks. No one suspected her snooping. She rifled through papers, her heart pounding. Nothing incriminating yet, but a nagging doubt grew. Why was he suddenly so attentive? Was it guilt? That night, as they lay in bed, Kenneth whispered, "I promise I'll make this right, whatever it takes." Amara feigned sleep, but her mind raced. He was hiding something, all right, and she was determined to uncover it. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting eerie shadows across the bedroom. Amara lay still, her breathing even, ears straining in the blind silence. It was past midnight when Kenneth's phone vibrated on the nightstand. He stirred, glancing at her before slipping out of bed and into the hallway. She waited a beat, then followed silently, her bare feet padding on the cool tiles. Peeking around the corner, she saw him hunched over, phone to his ear. "Yeah, it's me," he whispered urgently. "She doesn't suspect a thing after what we did. The doctors confirmed it. She's blind for good. We can move forward now." Amara's blood ran cold. Who was we? What had they done? Her mind flashed to the accident. The car swerving, Kenneth at the wheel. But was there someone else? A shadow in the passenger seat? Kenneth continued, his voice laced with tension. "Igioma, listen, we can't risk it. If she ever finds out we staged that crash to cover our tracks, it's over. For both of us." Igioma. Her best friend. The name hit like a punch. Amara clamped a hand over her mouth to stifle a gasp. Betrayal burned in her chest, hot and unrelenting. She retreated to bed, heart hammering, as Kenneth returned, oblivious. Lying there, feigning sleep, Amara's resolve hardened. The game had just begun. She would play blind a little longer, long enough to expose the darkness in their hearts. Amara's fingers trembled as she slid open the drawer in Kenneth's study, her blind act perfected over weeks of practice. The house was silent, save for the distant hum of Lagos traffic. Kenneth was at a supposed business meeting, leaving her alone to investigate. She'd memorized the layout of his desk, every pen, every paper clip, under the guise of fumbling helplessness. Now, her sharp eyes scanned the contents of the drawer, landing on an envelope tucked beneath a stack of invoices. The letter was addressed to Kenneth in a looping, familiar script. Amara's breath caught. Igioma's handwriting. Her best friend since university, the woman who'd been at their wedding, who'd held her hand through miscarriages and milestones. The envelope was dated the day of the accident, 6 months ago. With shaking hands, she tore it open. Asterisk Kenneth, I can't keep doing this. The guilt is eating me alive. But you're right, if Amara ever finds out, we're finished. Meet me tonight. We need to end this properly. Igioma, asterisk. Amara's vision blurred, not from injury but from rage. The letter confirmed it. Kenneth and Igioma weren't just plotting. They were lovers. And the accident? No random tragedy, it was their design. She stuffed the letter back, her mind racing. She needed more proof, and she needed it fast. That night, Amara lay awake, the letter's words searing her mind. Fragments of the accident flooded back, sharper now, like puzzle pieces snapping into place. She saw it vividly. The car speeding through Lagos' rain-slicked streets, Kenneth's knuckles white on the steering wheel, his jaw clenched. She'd been in the back seat, drowsy from a late dinner, when the world exploded, tires screeching, glass shattering, her scream swallowed by chaos.
But now a new detail emerged.
Igioma's silhouette in the passenger seat, her head turning to Kenneth, whispering something urgent just before the crash. Amara's heart pounded as the memory clarified. The crash wasn't an accident, it was staged.
But why?
To blind her? To control her? Or to cover something worse? She sat up, clutching the bedsheets. Kenneth slept beside her, his breathing steady, oblivious to the storm brewing in her mind. She needed answers, but confronting him now would ruin everything. Instead, she'd play the long game, using her blindness as a weapon. The next morning, Amara sat in Dr. Mensah's office, her sunglasses hiding the fire in her eyes. The doctor looked weary, his usual warmth dulled by the weight of their shared secret. "Mrs. Okoro, I reviewed your old files," he said, sliding a folder across the desk. The trauma from the accident was mild, temporary blurred vision at worst. "You can see perfectly, can't you?" Amara nodded, her voice low.
Yes.
"But not the way I used to. I see things now, things I was too blind to notice before." She recounted the letter, Kenneth's late-night call, Igioma's betrayal. Dr. Mensah's face darkened. "This is dangerous, Amara. If they staged the accident, you're not safe. We need to go to the police." "No," she said firmly.
Not yet.
"I want them to think they've won. I want them to slip up." She leaned forward, her voice steely. "Will you help me, doctor? One more lie. To catch them in theirs?" Dr. Mensah sighed, his ethical compass warring with his empathy. "You're playing with fire. But I'm in. What's the plan?" Amara's lips curled into a grim smile. "We expose them. Slowly. Painfully. Starting with a dinner they'll never forget." Amara spent the next week orchestrating her trap. She moved through the house with calculated clumsiness, letting Kenneth guide her, his every touch now laced with suspicion in her mind. She overheard more whispered calls, caught glimpses of texts he deleted too quickly. Each clue fueled her resolve. She proposed a dinner to celebrate their resilience after the accident. "Invite your business partner," she said casually to Kenneth one evening, her voice sweet. "The one you've been meeting so often. I'd love to thank them for supporting you." Kenneth froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. Sure. I'll see if they're free." His eyes darted away, and Amara knew she'd struck a nerve. The business partner was Igioma, she was certain. She called Dr. Mensah that night, her voice hushed. "It's happening. Friday night. I need you there as a witness. Bring a recorder, just in case." "Amara, this is reckless," he warned. "If they suspect you know." "They won't," she interrupted. "I've been blind for months in their eyes. They think I'm helpless. That's my advantage." Friday night arrived, the dining room aglow with candlelight. Amara had set the table herself, pretending to fumble with the cutlery while Kenneth hovered nervously. Igioma arrived, her perfume announcing her before her voice did. "Amara, darling," she cooed, embracing her. "You're so strong. I can't imagine what you're going through." Amara hugged her back, her smile tight. "I wish I could see you both right now," she said, her tone laced with just enough melancholy to sell the lie. Kenneth coughed, shifting in his seat. Igioma's laugh was brittle. Dr. Mensah arrived last, his presence calming Amara's nerves. The meal began, small talk filling the air like a fog. Kenneth praised Amara's courage. Igioma chimed in with hollow compliments. But Amara noticed everything. Kenneth's hand brushing Igioma's under the table, Igioma's quick glances at the door, as if planning an escape. Then came the moment. Amara reached for her wine glass, her movements deliberately clumsy. The glass tipped, red wine arcing toward Igioma's white dress. Igioma yelped, dodging with cat-like reflexes. The room froze. Amara tilted her head, her voice soft but razor-sharp. "Blind people shouldn't make perfect aim, right?" Igioma's face paled. Kenneth's fork clattered to his plate. Dr. Mensah's hand slipped to the recorder in his pocket, his eyes locked on Amara. The air crackled with tension, the first crack in their carefully constructed lies. The dining room was a battlefield of silence, the spilled wine pooling like blood on the white tablecloth. Igioma's eyes darted to Kenneth, her face a mask of panic. Amara sat back, her sunglasses glinting in the candlelight, her lips curled in a faint, knowing smile. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Igioma," she said, her voice dripping with mock innocence. "I didn't mean to ruin your dress. It's hard, not seeing where things land." Kenneth forced a laugh, too loud for the room. "It's fine, love. Accidents happen." He reached for her hand, but Amara pulled away, her fingers brushing the stem of another glass as if testing her own charade. Igioma stammered, It's no trouble, really. I'll just clean up." She stood, her chair scraping loudly, but Amara's voice stopped her cold.
"No, stay."
"We're just getting started." The words were soft, but they carried a weight that pinned Igioma to her seat. Dr. Mensah, silent until now, cleared his throat, his hand still resting near the hidden recorder in his jacket. "Amara's right," he said, his tone measured. "This is a special night. Let's not rush." Kenneth's eyes flicked between them, sweat beading on his forehead. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice tight. Amara tilted her head, her gaze hidden but piercing. "Nothing, darling. Just enjoying the company and the truth." The word hung in the air, sharp as a blade. Igioma's hand trembled around her glass. The test had begun, and Amara was in control. The next day, Dr. Mensah sat behind his cluttered desk, the hospital's fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows. Kenneth stood before him, his usual charm replaced by a frantic edge. "Doctor, you said her condition was permanent," he said, pacing. "You're sure there's no chance her sight could come back?" Dr. Mensah leaned forward, his face a mask of professional calm, though his heart raced. He'd agreed to Amara's plan, but every lie tightened the knot in his conscience. "There's a possibility," he said carefully, "that with the right treatment, reducing stress, for example, her vision could improve. Stress can exacerbate these cases." Kenneth's face drained of color. "Stress? What kind of stress?" His voice cracked, betraying more than concern. Dr. Mensah pressed a button on the recorder hidden in his desk drawer. "Oh, anything significant. Emotional trauma, secrets, things that weigh on a marriage." Kenneth froze, his eyes narrowing. "She can't find out anything, doctor." "Please. You don't understand what's at stake." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a desperate whisper. "The accident, it was a mistake. I didn't mean for her to get hurt. I just needed her out of the way for a while." Dr. Mensah's pulse quickened, but he kept his expression neutral. "Out of the way," he echoed, giving Kenneth just enough rope. Kenneth ran a hand through his hair, oblivious to the trap. "It's complicated. There's someone else. But I love Amara. I swear I do." The recorder captured every word. Dr. Mensah nodded solemnly. "I'll do what I can, Mr. Okoro. But the truth has a way of surfacing." Kenneth left, unaware that his confession was now a weapon in Amara's hands. Amara sat in her darkened living room, the flash drive from Dr. Mensah clutched in her hand. The curtains were drawn, her sunglasses discarded. She no longer needed the pretense here. She plugged the drive into her laptop, her breath shallow as Kenneth's voice filled the room. "She doesn't suspect a thing after what we did. The doctors confirmed it. She's blind for good. We can move forward now." His words from the night of the whispered call echoed, followed by his hospital confession. "The accident, it was a mistake. I just needed her out of the way." Tears burned Amara's eyes, but they weren't tears of sorrow anymore. They were fuel. She replayed the recording, each word carving deeper into her resolve. Kenneth and Igioma hadn't just betrayed her. They'd orchestrated the accident to trap her in darkness, to control her life. But they'd underestimated her. She wasn't their victim. She was their reckoning. She called Dr. Mensah, her voice steady despite the fire in her chest. "It's enough," she said. "The dinner was phase 1. This recording is phase 2. I'm ready for the final act." Be careful, Amara, he warned. They're cornered now. Cornered people do desperate things. Let them try, she replied. I'm not blind anymore. Amara stood in the kitchen, stirring a pot of egusi soup, when she made her move. Kenneth was reading the news on his phone, his guard down. Darling, she said casually, Dr. Mensah called. He thinks my sight might be coming back. Something about stress reduction and new treatments. Kenneth's phone slipped from his hand, clattering onto the counter. What? His voice was a mix of hope and dread. That's incredible, Amara. When did he say this? She turned, her eyes still hidden behind sunglasses, her tone light. Yesterday. He's optimistic. I might see her face again soon. She watched his reaction closely, his forced smile, the way his hands clenched. He was unraveling. That afternoon, Amara learned Ijeoma had booked a flight out of Lagos. Panicked, no doubt, by the dinner and now this news. But Amara wasn't done. She sent a text to both Kenneth and Ijeoma. * dinner at our place tomorrow. A celebration for my recovery. You both mean so much to me. * she signed it with a heart emoji, savoring the irony. Kenneth tried to dissuade her. Maybe we should wait, love. You're still recovering. But Amara's smile was unrelenting. No, darling. I want to see this through. The dining room was transformed, candles flickering, a projector screen set up against one wall. Guests, neighbors, colleagues, Dr. Mensah, filled the room, their chatter masking the tension. Amara wore her sunglasses, her movements still cautious, but her heart was a drumbeat of anticipation. Kenneth and Ijeoma arrived together, their faces strained, their smiles brittle. Dinner was served, but the air was thick with unspoken truths. Amara stood, clinking her glass for attention. Thank you all for coming, she said, her voice clear. Tonight's special. I have an announcement. She paused, letting the silence stretch, then removed her sunglasses. Her eyes, sharp and alive, scanned the room, landing on Kenneth and Ijeoma. Gasps rippled through the guests. I can see again, she said, her voice steady but electric. And I finally see who you really are. Kenneth's jaw dropped. Ijeoma gripped the table, her knuckles white. Amara's gaze didn't waver. Let's share a little truth tonight, she said, nodding to Dr. Mensah. He pressed a button, and the projector hummed to life. The room was about to witness their downfall. The projector's light sliced through the candlelit dining room, casting Kenneth's recorded confession onto the screen. His voice, raw with guilt, filled the silence. The accident, it was a mistake. I just needed her out of the way. Gasps erupted from the guests, neighbors, colleagues, friends, whose eyes darted between Kenneth and Ijeoma, now frozen like deer in headlights. Amara stood tall, her gaze locked on her husband and her former best friend. You took my sight, Kenneth, she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. You and Ijeoma staged that crash to trap me in darkness. But now, everyone sees you for who you are. Kenneth lurched to his feet, his face ashen. Amara, no. This isn't what it looks like. He lunged for the projector's power cord, but Dr. Mensah stepped in front of it, his presence a quiet warning. Ijeoma sobbed, her hands covering her face. We didn't mean to hurt you, she choked out. It was supposed to be temporary. Temporary? Amara's laugh was sharp, bitter. You stole months of my life. You betrayed me in ways I can't forgive. She turned to the guests, her voice steady but resonant. I invited you here to witness the truth. They thought I was blind, helpless, but I saw everything. The room buzzed with shock, phones already recording, whispers spreading like wildfire. Kenneth sank back into his chair, defeated, as two police officers, alerted by Dr. Mensah, entered through the front door. Amara's heart pounded, but not with fear. It was victory. The officers handcuffed Kenneth as he stammered apologies, his voice cracking. Amara, I swear, I didn't want this. It was Ijeoma's idea. She pushed me into it. Ijeoma's head snapped up, tears streaming. Don't you dare pin this on me alone. You want her out of the way for the deal. Kenneth? The guests watched, stunned, as the couple turned on each other. Amara stood apart, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. You lied to heal your guilt, she said softly, her words meant only for Kenneth. You thought you could control me, break me, but you were wrong. As the police escorted them out, Kenneth collapsed to his knees, sobbing. I love you, Amara. Please, but the door closed behind him, muffling his pleas. Igioma, silent now, avoided Amara's gaze as she was led away. The room erupted in chatter, but Amara felt only a hollow calm. Justice was served, but the scars remained. She turned to Dr. Mensah, who stood quietly by the projector. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded, his eyes heavy with the weight of what they'd done. You're free now, he said. But Amara wondered if freedom could ever feel whole again. The fallout was swift. Dr. Mensah faced an ethics board for falsifying Amara's diagnosis, his medical license revoked within weeks. He sat in his now empty office, packing files into boxes, when Amara visited. I'm sorry, she said, her voice thick with guilt. You lost everything because of me. He shook his head, a tired smile breaking through. Not everything. I lost a title, yes, but I gained something else, knowing I helped you find the truth. He paused, placing a hand on her shoulder. Sometimes lies expose the deepest truths, Amara. You taught me that. She nodded, her eyes glistening. And you taught me that truth can heal what sight can't. She handed him a letter, her handwriting neat and deliberate. It's a recommendation for your new practice. Consulting, maybe. You're too good to be silenced. Dr. Mensah took the letter, his throat tight. You're a fighter, Amara. Don't stop now. As she left, he opened the letter, finding not just a recommendation but a check, seed money for his next chapter. Amara, it seemed, was rewriting everyone's story. Months later, Amara stood before a crowd in a Lagos community center, her voice steady as she launched The Sight Within, a foundation for accident victims, especially women betrayed by those closest to them. The room was packed, cameras flashing, her speech live-streamed across Nigeria. You don't need eyes to see betrayal, she said, her words resonating. You need courage to open your heart again. The video went viral, shared thousands of times on YouTube and X, with comments calling her a hero, a survivor. She spoke of her journey, not just the accident, but the strength she found in reclaiming her life. Donations poured in, and survivors reached out, their stories echoing hers. Amara felt a purpose she'd never known, a light born from darkness. At home, she cleared out Kenneth's belongings, donating them without a second glance. Igioma's trial was ongoing, but Amara didn't attend. She'd already faced her demons. Instead, she focused on rebuilding, her home now a sanctuary of her own making. She hung a painting in the living room, a sunrise, vibrant and bold, a reminder of what she'd overcome. Amara stood on the hospital roof with Dr. Mensah, now a consultant for her foundation. The Lagos skyline stretched before them, the sunset painting the city in hues of gold and crimson. You did it, he said, his voice warm. You turned their lives into something beautiful. She smiled, her eyes tracing the horizon. I finally see clearly, doctor. Not with my eyes, but with my soul. The words felt like a vow, a promise to herself. She'd lost a husband, a friend, and months of her life, but she'd gained something greater, herself. As the sun dipped below the skyline, Amara felt weightless, unburdened. The cameras, the trials, the whispers, they'd fade. But her strength, her truth, would endure. She turned to Dr. Mensah, her voice soft but certain. Let's keep helping others see, too. He nodded, and they stood in silence, watching the city glow. The story wasn't over, it was just beginning.
The end.